Productions here, and today we're going to be ranking every single Thomas & Friends movie. Before we get into it, let's establish some ground rules. For one, each of these movies is an hour long, so we are not considering any of the Big World, Big Adventures special episodes that are 22 minutes long. And secondly, this is all my own opinion. This is not ranked by fan consensus or Rotten Tomatoes score or anything like that. It's all just my own opinion, so take this list with a grain of salt. And without further ado, let's get on to the video. Number 14. Day of the Diesels. Day of the Diesels is by far the worst Thomas & Friends installment. It really just didn't capture anything good about Thomas at all. It kind of just made a very poor execution of a rather interesting concept, Percy being the main character. However, it just turned into a rehash of Calling All Engines with the whole Steamies versus Diesels conflict, and it doesn't resolve that well. It also is a very harmful message, painting the Diesels in a bad light and the Steamies in a good light, basically teaching the kids that people different than you are bad, and that just isn't a good message. The new characters this special are pretty bland too, and the special is just way too repetitive. Wherever there are good parts about it, Percy being the main character is an interesting concept, however, it isn't executed well. And I think the music is admittedly pretty good, but that does not save the special from being dead last on this list. Number 13. Misty Island Rescue. Misty Island Rescue has already been talked about to death by other Thomas fans, so we'll keep this brief. But in short, Misty Island is such a dumb concept, and the characters' decisions here are really unlikable. Thomas is super unlikable, and he spreads a harmful message to Diesel that only steam engines can be really useful, which I'm not a fan of. The logging locos are also very annoying, and just the overall plot is very dumb. However, the only thing keeping this above Day of the Diesels is the intro sequence is pretty good. The music is good, and admittedly, the animation's pretty good, but that's about it. Everything else about this movie is awful. Number 12. Big World, Big Adventures. Big Adventures completely misses the mark of what Thomas & Friends is supposed to be. It takes a rather interesting concept, but does it in a very dumb and silly way, of Thomas just following a race car around, that being Ace. I like what Ace represents in this movie, of how basically not to give a happy ending to, like bad influences. I think it's a good message, and I like how Nia's handled, but just this Sir Top Hat subplot's very annoying, and the special is just way too cartoony, and it just completely misses the mark of what Thomas & Friends is supposed to be, and that's why it is so low on this list. Number 11. Calling All Engines. I have virtually nothing to say about Calling All Engines. Learning segments are dumb. The whole special feels boring. However, it does resolve the Steamies versus Diesels conflict well, and the choice of characters is pretty fun. But other than that, there's just nothing to say about Calling All Engines. It's a boring snore fest of a movie that has good model sequences, but other than that, there's not much to it. Number 10. Thomas and the Magic Railroad. For being the first Thomas & Friends movie, Thomas and the Magic Railroad really had a bar to set. And yeah, I think what ruins this movie is the magic element. It just kind of doesn't really fit what Thomas is all about. And yeah, and after this movie being a big box office failure, the show pretty much went downhill after this. But I still don't think this is a bad movie. The actual Thomas stuff in the movie is good. I just wish it was the focus of the movie, unlike all the human stuff. And the music is really good, and admittedly, this movie does look nice to look at. So yeah, it's an average movie with some good stuff and some bad stuff. Number 9. Journey Beyond Sodor. I'd say from here on out, every movie on this list is decent, and Journey Beyond Sodor is a pretty decent Thomas movie, I think. The experimental engines aren't my favorite characters. However, I do like Hurricane and Frankie. They definitely are imposing villains, and I like James's bigger role in the movie. And I really like the idea of, like, an imprisoned, like, steam engines basically forced to be, like, slaves. I think that's a really interesting idea. The experimental engines are an interesting idea, too. I'm just not a big fan of them, except Merlin, of course. And Beresford's kind of annoying. His scenes are not very funny, and the bouncing can get quite annoying. But other than that, Journey Beyond Sodor is a decent Thomas movie, and I think it's very well paced. However, I think there are some issues that keep it from being amazing. Number 8. King of the Railway. King of the Railway, being the first movie written by Andrew Brenner, was a pretty good movie, I'd say. I'd say it's a pretty good kind of precursor to the Brenner era. There are some very good new characters here. Millie and Steven are definitely the highlights, and Connor and Caitlin are pretty good too. I also really enjoy the Earl, Sir Robert Norby. He's a very fun character. The only thing that I really take issue with within the special is the unfocused story. I think there's just way too many subplots going on. It doesn't really know, like, when the main plot is or what the main plot is. It's kind of hard to really figure out. The special doesn't really have a clear main character either. Sometimes it's Thomas, sometimes it's Steven, sometimes the Earl. It's very confusing. However, this movie is still pretty solid. The animation may be still dated, but other than that, it's still a pretty good movie, and it's definitely a very charming experience. Number 7, The Great Race. Race is a very mixed movie in the Thomas and Friends community. Some people really like it, some people don't really like it, and a lot of people just think it's sort of just meh. I'm part of the people who really like this movie. I think it's a good movie. I really enjoy the soundtrack. That's definitely the highlight of the movie for me. I feel like there is a little bit too much time spent on Sodor. I wish the Great Roller Show happened sooner. But other than that, it's still a good movie. I really like Flying Scotsman. He's a very good character, and I really enjoy his relationship with Gordon. I do wish Gordon was the main character of the movie, but I feel like Thomas as the main character for the movie works fine. I wish the Diesel subplot wasn't there. That's pretty pointless. But other than that, it's still a good Thomas movie. I like it. It's a fun movie. It just isn't as good as some of the other movies higher up on this list. Number 6, Hero of the Rails. Rails is easily the most nostalgic movie on this list. I remember when this movie first came out. It was literally the year I was born. So I have a lot of nostalgia for it. The narration is definitely overkill. That's my really only major problem with this special. But other than that, there is a lot of great characters introduced in this movie and a lot of great locations. So yeah, I think Hero of the Rails is a worthwhile movie, and I think it's very entertaining. Number 5, A Great Discovery. Discovery is a great send-off to Model Thomas. In my opinion, I think this would have been the best time to end Thomas because, this was the last full model production, and I think this would have been the best time. The movie is great. I think the middle is kind of slow. Stanley isn't the best character, but pretty much every other character is written well, and that's why I love this movie. Number 4, Tale of the Brave. Tale of the Brave is a great movie about Thomas, Percy, and James. I like how it has 3 protagonists, and I think Thomas and Percy's friendship here is actually well tested, unlike in Day of the Diesels, which I think did it kind of badly. This one actually was pretty good at it, and I think it does a good job of giving Percy the spotlight role, as well as James and Thomas. So it's a great movie. New characters are fun, and I just love the character development all 3 of its main characters go through, and I love how they all 3 have an arc. It's really awesome. This movie is a lot of fun, and I definitely recommend you watch it. Number 3, Blue Mountain Mystery. Blue Mountain Mystery is an incredibly good movie. It does pretty much everything right. It pretty much gets every character in character. The whole mystery is really cool, and it's just really well done. I think the story is very well done. The narrow gauge engine's return is nice. I like Thomas's role in this movie. I think he's perfectly in character, and I really like that. I think it's overall just a very, very entertaining movie that I have a lot of nostalgia towards. I remember watching the DVD a lot as a kid. So yeah, I just absolutely just love this movie. It's just amazing. It just is awesome. It's an awesome movie. I absolutely adore it. Number 2, Sodor's Legend of the Lost Treasure. Sodor's Legend of the Lost Treasure is just incredible. Everything about this movie feels so adult and cinematic, and I love it. I just love this movie. The score is incredible, the new characters are incredible, and just everything about this movie is so good. I just love it. It's just so good, and it does so much right, and it ties everything together, every plot together so nicely. However, there is still one Thomas movie that is better. Number 1, The Adventure Begins. Adventure Begins does everything right. The only nitpick I'll have with this movie is the fact that Henry is kind of out of character with being scared of the rain, but that's basically a nitpick. That's more of a problem with the entire Brenner era than this movie. But this movie does everything else so well. Thomas's arc is perfect in this movie. I think this is the better adaptation of the two. Like between the model series, the season 1 adaptations, I think this is definitely better. It's just such a big improvement. I just loved it when they did this. it was just amazing. I absolutely love this movie. It just is incredible, and it's why it's the #1 spot. Hey everybody, that's the end of the video here, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed watching the video. I think this video was a ton of fun to make. I hope you guys really enjoy it, and yeah, I don't know what video is next, but I think I am hoping it is very good. My top 10 Thomas and Friends characters was actually a pretty successful video. It actually ended up gaining a lot of traction, surprisingly. Like, we gotten a lot of views for it, which I think is surprising. I think the my whole schedule, I'll probably upload like every 2 weeks on a Saturday. So yeah, I think it's gonna be definitely harder with like school starting soon. So it's probably gonna be very hard to work on videos, but I think I'll try my best to get videos up. And yeah, and I hope you guys really enjoyed this video, and leave comment suggestions down below for future videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.